everybody, and welcome back to my bed. My name is Jessica, my friends call me Jess, and today's video is all about hosting. And you might be like, hosting? Jessica, I'm here for the baby and toddler stuff. I'm all about growing families, talking about that. No, babe, what you're gonna find out is your children have birthdays every year, and eventually those celebrations involve some element of hosting a party. You also might find yourself hosting things throughout the year. You also may be very extroverted like I am and like my husband is, and then you'll be like, you know what, this weekend we should host a barbecue. We should do this, we should do that. You want to know how to be a good host. It is a skill that is going to bless your life for years to come, and it is going to enhance the lives of everyone in your orbit. In fact, have you ever been to a party so good? Well, your kids might be too young for this. Sometimes I have taken my daughter Eloise, she's almost 8, to parties, and I've thought, I really hope that her memory shakes just enough to where she thinks, I planned this party for her, that it wasn't her friend's birthday party, that she thinks somehow it was her own birthday party. I've gone to parties like that. And then I read a book by Jen Hatmaker who said exactly the same thing. So I want you to know that I'm not stealing her funny joke. We have the same funny sense of humor. No, but that's so real. Sometimes you go to parties and you're like, this is so amazing. I'm so lucky to be here. And if you're a parent, you're like, I will not be able to plan this level of birthday party for my child. So I hope they think this is theirs. Unless maybe you're watching and you're like, I am the person who plans those parties. In that case, you could probably guess my address because I'm not very discreet in my YouTube videos, and apparently people have already found my address. Send me an invite. I would love to come to your parties. I don't need to come to your parties, but I do want to talk about hosting, because as much as it's fun to like have really picture perfect decorations and be like, I don't know, maybe you're looking on Pinterest and you're figuring out how you want your gathering to appear on social media after the fact, there is actually a lot that goes into a gathering that has nothing to do with the aesthetic that will contribute to how good this party is or how good this little event is. And I read a book called The Art of Gathering. You should read it. Everyone should read it. If you are the type of person who wants to be good at connecting people, inviting people to a place and all of you eat and drink and be merry and have great conversations. Oh my gosh, this book was so good. I read it in just like a couple of days, maybe less. When I get a good book and I love it, it's just all I want to do is be inside it. And I sometimes listen to them on audio, like a podcast, right? On Audible, on the app. This one was delicious to me. And what I'm gonna do is share with you some things that I learned from this book, and then I'm also gonna pepper in some of my own experiences. And what I want for you is that you are able to take this and apply it to your own life, even if your own life is only gonna have some sort of hosting that looks like, I don't know, my friend's coming over for coffee, or like this other couple's coming over to have dinner with us. Really, it doesn't have to be major hosting. I just want you to be more equipped, because there are some basic things we can do that make us exceptional hosts, where people will be like, I'm so excited. I got invited to your house again, or I got invited to this thing, and I'm so stoked because it's going to be so great. So that's what we're going to talk about, okay? I'm going to preface this by saying I have 2 kids who have birthdays this month, just weeks away, and I haven't sent out invites. I'm pretty terrible with decor. I mean, I have an eye for like, oh, this is cute, I want to do something like that. But I definitely am not good at hosting parties that have like the balloon arches. Love a balloon arch. Think they're so cute. I just have never done that myself. Any party that I have, I usually ask a friend who's really good at those details to partner with me and make it a collaboration. So what I'm saying is, I'm coming to you as someone who is just okay at hosting, not great at all of the Pinterest details that maybe you're thinking of when I say event. But what I love is people. I love people. I love connection. I love the idea of like a bunch of people in a room who see the world differently, but then hang out and eat and drink and have a great time and find out they have so much more in common than they thought they did when they were home scrolling on their own screens, looking at each other and being like, oh, Can you believe? I just think there's too much of that in the world, and there's not enough like, so what's it feel like to be you? How's your mind? How's your life? How's your family? What are you stressed about? What do you love? What are you happy about? That's the stuff that really gets me going. And if you want some of that, you could join Very Good Mothers Club, our online community, because that's what we do every week via Zoom. And now we're doing it in person. Different moms in the community are hosting events in their cities. I host them here every week in LA. So if you want to come, I would love to have you. First thing I want to say, and I definitely got this from the book, but I also got it from my life. And so I'm just throwing it in as point one. This one's important, and I want you to remember it. Maybe write it down. When you host a gathering of people, tell the people what they have in common with other people there. So like if you're inviting 7 people over and you know like 2 of them are musicians, 3 of them like golf, 2 of them, I don't know, they both came from the Midwest, whatever it is, think it through. Obviously when you're planning your guest list, I think there's probably some attention to the fact like these guys will probably all have some sort of chemistry that will make it fun for us. If you're not, that's a pro tip. Maybe think about the guest list a little bit harder, because then you'll have more fun. But make sure you tell them. I went to a holiday party at a friend's house a long time ago, and it stuck out to me because I felt so awkward there. There were lots of people. I didn't really know who to connect to. It was one of those things where like nobody was really trying to talk to me, and everyone was sort of mingling with their people already. A lot of them knew each other. I didn't. So I had like an okay time. I think I also had my kids there, and a lot of people there didn't have kids. Anyway, so here's what happened. So towards the end of the party, I'm having just an okay time, just like pretty mediocre. The host comes to me and is like, hey, did you ever connect with those 2 people who were like on the opposite side of the room, who left already by this point? I was like, no, no, I've been here. And then they proceed to tell me like, oh my gosh, you guys know so many of the same people. You worked together in the same organization for like the same period of time. You were probably in New York City together. You probably did this together. And I'm like, hello, I've been pretty bored here. I mean, I didn't say that. I was just like, no way. Anyway, my inner self was like, this has been so boring. You could have told me that upon arrival, and then I would have someone to talk to this whole time. So that's my first tip for hosting, is if you know that people have something in common, please tell them. Give them some sort of starting point so that they can begin a conversation. If you don't know that people have stuff in common, then that's fine. Then what your job is as the host is to start kind of stirring up conversation, provoking things, maybe come loaded with some questions like, what can I ask the crew? Even if it's like a very chill hangout. I know you want to be chill host, you want to be laid back, and you want everybody to have a good time, but you want to do something that helps your guests to be able to engage with each other, because not everybody is going to be so good at communicating the way you are, little host, who's hosting these people probably because you like talking to people. Well, the people you're inviting might not like talking to people as much as you do, and they're stepping out of their comfort zone if they're coming to an event where they don't know people. Even if they don't know just some of the people there, you want to get them started so that conversations can happen. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a gathering where people kind of break up into little pods or little bubbles. And maybe that's fun. I mean, sometimes I go to things and I'm like, that's cool, because then you know like who your people are. What can then happen is people just sort of like leave whenever they want, and it wasn't like a standout moment. It was more just like, yeah, cool, that was something for me to do on a whatever night. Again, not a failed gathering, but if you want to have like a memorable time, you want to kind of interrupt people's reality and give them something to be thankful for and excited about, something that like in the days later they were like, wow, that was so special, then give them a starting off point so that they can connect with the other people at your party. You want to clarify why you're bringing these people together. And in the book, she talks about this super in depth, and she's going to challenge you to be like more and more specific. What are you trying to do? I'm just going to say, clarify what you're trying to do. Why are these people coming together? What is this purpose? Because then every detail is going to align with that, right? So even like, where are you going to host this gathering? If you want to create a very intimate setting for moms to get away and reconnect and to, I don't know, process how things have been for them in motherhood, and you want it to be really intimate, then you probably don't want to do it in like a wide open space, super bright, with loud music, or echoey sound or something, you probably want to find a smaller space with more dim lights or peaceful music, right? Every little detail is going to contribute to whether or not our purpose is accomplished. So we're celebrating our child's birthday. That's the purpose. Okay, awesome. Maybe a little bit beyond that, we also want to connect our friends and family, have an opportunity to have everybody get excited that our little one's growing, but also just a moment to come together because life is crazy and we don't get to see these people as often as we want to. So then you figure out, okay, what's a space that would accommodate this number of people? Are there bathrooms? Is there somewhere where we can prepare food? You're thinking through the purpose because the purpose is going to help you clarify the details of this party, right? Also, if we think through the purpose and we realize, like, okay, for you guys who are in Very Good Mothers Club and maybe this summer you're hosting your first event for moms in your city. I know that this month we have events in Washington, Michigan, and then 2 different locations in LA. And there's more of you who want to host events. So next month we're going to do more cities. So you're thinking through, what is the purpose of this gathering? What is the purpose of this event? Do we want to have kids present or not? Is this for moms only? Is this moms and dads? Is this a parent event? Is this a family event? You're thinking through the purpose, and then that's going to help you nail down the little details. So like in Michigan, I know that you've got an event coming up in a couple of weeks, and that's just for moms only, and you're meeting at a cafe, and it's going to be so cool. And the purpose there is to connect with local moms and give them an opportunity to have a night out away from their kids, to be refreshed and encouraged and make new friends. So cool. So you picked a place that has a lot of seating. You picked a place where people are going to be able to easily find something that they want to eat or drink, and it's also not intimidating. People can come who don't know you and they will probably have a good time. So that's what you're doing in Michigan, and you are figuring out the purpose and then creating the event accordingly. Okay? Clarify your purpose. The next thing in the book that they talk about is curate your guest list. And sometimes we don't think through our guest list very well. I've definitely been a person who's just like, oh, we're having a barbecue. Okay, I'm just gonna invite everybody that I know. And then it's usually fine. I mean, it's not bad. If people are gonna come to a barbecue, then they're probably gonna have an okay time. But when I'm more intentional, when I think through like, okay, every guest, I want to make sure that for every person I invite, there's another person that I invite that has something in common with that one, so that there's never an odd person out, so that everybody can kind of find their people and connect. It ends up being a much better time. And after I read this book, that influenced the way that I host and who I invite at different times. So yeah, so I want to encourage you to curate your guest list when you invite people to things, especially if you end up working for like an organization or something. Sometimes we invite like the same people over and over again, or we invite everybody who thinks the same way about a certain thing. And sometimes if we want to make something more interesting or more dynamic, or we want to, I don't know, achieve a different purpose, think a different way, be more creative, then it's worth expanding or shifting the guest list so that we can accomplish that goal, whatever the goal is, which we figured out in our first point, which was, what's the purpose of this gathering? Maybe we need to make the guest list smaller. Maybe we need to expand it. Yeah, you just want to think about the guests that you're bringing. Okay, my next point, which maybe this is obvious, but pay attention to the details. And I'm talking details like food, drink, ambiance, music, and maybe it sounds like a lot, but the thing is, if you pay attention to the details ahead of time, then on the day of, you can be much more present because you're not having to make big decisions, right? So you figure out like, where do I want to have it? What do I want it to feel like? How can I accomplish that feeling? What type of music needs to be playing for that to happen? What type of food do we need to serve? Is this an event where kids are going to be? What are some kid-friendly foods? If there's going to be a lot of little ones at a place, like kid-friendly, is it safe? Is it something where you can invite guests to come and they'll actually have a nice time? Or are they going to feel like they're spending their whole time like keeping their kids from doing things. No, don't do this. No, don't do that. It would actually be better if you know that the place that you're hosting this event at is not safe for kids. Then do the parents a favor and say, hey, it's an adults only event, just because it's not safe for kids. It's not, the location isn't accommodating to children. The parents are going to be so thankful. They will figure out if they're able to come, and if they are, then they're going to have such an awesome time, and it's going to be so much more relaxing because you thought through the details of that time. I loved this book, and there were so many details in it, but basically one of the things that I thought was very cool was they talked about even the way you sit, like in a group. Say you have a group of people at a table, they talked about sitting so that every side is covered, so there's not like an opening. So for example, if there's 6 of us at a table, instead of doing 3 on one side and 3 on the other, you would want to do 2, 2, and 2 heads at the table, because it's going to cause like a flow of energy that makes conversation easier. And I tried it. I went out to eat with my in-laws, and we were initially sitting at a table where it was like 2 rows, and I said, hey, let's do what the book said. Let's actually like close the gaps. And it really helped. It made for like more intimacy. It made for a cooler dynamic of conversation. There was nobody like left out, and there wasn't a place where like the sound goes out. It all kind of comes back in. They even talked about how like often at parties you'll see people gravitate to a kitchen because people like that enclosed feeling. It just like keeps all the energy there, and everybody sort of interacts with each other. And you can watch, if you're in a really big room and there's only a few of you, it's sort of like an awkward feeling. So the author gave an example of that and talked about how people tried to find ways to create like enclosures around their gatherings, even in a big room, so that it felt like more, I don't know, I'm using the word intimacy, but basically so that there was something around the gathering that created a spot for people to connect better and not feel like they were just sort of adrift in this massive space. So you're thinking through details like that if you want people to connect. There is like a point of gathering that isn't so much about hosting people, and it's just kind of like, hey, we're having a free-for-all. Like, I mean, Sean and I have done that too, where we'll not put so much thought into it, and we'll just say, Sean's gonna turn on the grill, bring meat, bring drinks, come hang out. We're just gonna hang out. And I don't feel a big, strong burden like I need to think through the details of the event. What is the purpose? The purpose is we're getting through a Saturday with kids. We'd love to invite other people if they also want to get through a Saturday with us and our kids. Then they can come over. So then it's much more chill. But I'm talking if we are doing like an intentional event, we're celebrating something, we're connecting, it's a holiday, I don't know, we have some reason to get together, then you'd want to think through the details so that you all could have a better time. The next tip is be present and engaged with your guests, which I'm gonna say is hard for me. I have a thing where like I love to invite people, I love the noise happening all around me, but there is a temptation once a party has actually started where I sort of want to hide. I just want to go into another room and like cut vegetables or something and just be like, okay, you guys, I did the part I do, which is just arrange for the event to happen. Now you guys carry it. And as a host of an event, it's important that there is some awareness of your guests. There's some mingling, there's some inviting people to conversations and spotting, like, is somebody not quite having a good time? How can I help make this a better experience for them? In the book, they talk so much about like really cool ways you can interrupt people's real lives once they get into your space. Meaning like you've got this gathering, but on the way to your gathering, your friends might have had a really stressful phone call from a loved one, or they might be thinking about work and it's kind of got them in your backyard, but also they're like in their office mentally, right? Maybe you have a tired mom who's coming to your house and she really wants to be present, but she is in a fog and she's having a hard time really engaging with what you've got going at this event that you're hosting. So they talk about how basically the moment your guests arrive, you could interrupt those feelings they're having and invite them into an hour or 2 of bliss, whatever bliss you create, right? So one example of that would be some years ago, Sean and I had an amazing opportunity to go to Jamaica with Carly Chrisman. Some of you know her. She's an awesome person and has a YouTube channel, and she was a really close friend of mine. she invited us to go to Jamaica with her, and we were so tired. We got there, the flight had been terrible, we had a delay, and then Sean lost his skateboard, which was just this whole drama thing, and it was just not a good time flying there with a baby. I cried, Eloise cried, somebody yelled at me on the plane. It was just so dumb, the whole thing. And I remember arriving to Jamaica and like going to this place. We didn't really know where we were staying. We just knew that it was some beautiful opportunity that Carly had invited us to. And I'm thinking to myself, is this worth it? Like, was this trip worth it? Should we just not have come? And the moment we arrived to this Jamaican villa, it was like magical, you guys. It was something of dreams. But the moment we get out of the vehicle, this lovely man named Stanley walks up holding a drink on a tray for me and for Sean, and then had like a bunch of stuff for baby Eloise. It was so cute. Anyway, it was the moment we arrived, there was a refreshing beverage and a welcome. Hi, welcome. They knew our names. That is a beautiful interruption to reality. I was struggling. I get out, there's a refreshing drink, a lovely man named Stanley, and then it turns out like the most beautiful house ever. That's what I'm talking about. When your people arrive to your event, what can you do? How can you greet them at the door and offer them something? Maybe it's as simple as just like a hug and I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for being here. Where can I put your stuff? How can I help you? Some sort of engaging interruption versus what happens a lot of times at events is like the doors like kind of cracked open and people just sort of mosey in and then they're like awkwardly like, hey, yeah, I'm so-and-so's cousin, hi. And then the host's like, oh, you came, hi. And then there's just movement, so much movement. That's not a great introduction and welcome. A better one would be some sort of very intentional, you have arrived, now let me show you to your place. Here's where the drinks are, here's where the food is, here's where the bathroom is, here's somebody you know, here's somebody that you have something in common with, and then you move to the next piece. Oh yeah, so what the next point is, just give space for organic interactions to happen. And this would be if you are the type of party planner that maybe is a little bit type A and likes to have everything controlled, which is not me. I could use a little more of that in my life. But if you are the type of person who's like, here's the seating chart, here's the games, here's every activity, I have it all mapped out, and we're gonna start here, and we're gonna end here, and here's the photo shoot, blah, 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 blah. You need to chill just a little bit. You're doing so good. You want that type of a structure to your event because it is going to do what I just described. It's going to take them out of reality and it's going to bring them into something cool. And as long as they don't feel so like you've controlled them to the point of the joy being sucked out of their lives, if they feel like there's a little sense of freedom within your structure, they're going to have a great time. You just don't want to overkill it so then they can't actually connect and it feels a little bit like they attended, I don't know, like a school event with required reading, something where could have been fun, but then you made it mandatory and required and then it wasn't fun. So yeah, you want to give some space, some time, especially if you have a whole schedule. I think I brought that point home. I think you already know. Don't make it too structured because then it's not fun. After the gathering is over, take some time to reflect. I mean, I think that's just wisdom, right? If you want to be a host who hosts gatherings on the regular, maybe it's for a job, maybe it's just for fun, maybe you want to have more friends or you want to add some zest to your life, then after the event is over, think about what worked and what didn't. What was cool. For Sean and I, we started doing something more recently where we bring a grill to a park and we invite friends and we eat food and the kids play and it's really fun and we love it. And I feel like we're getting better and better at it. And what's happening is just afterwards, sort of naturally, we're like, that was cool. Or like, this detail was kind of hard. I didn't love that. And then we tweak it. And then the next time around, we do something different and make it better. I think that if you can be a great host, it is just one of the coolest skills you can have because it really is going to serve your life until you're no longer here anymore, right? It's just till you're old and gray. You could be great at hosting and you could be the type of person that when people get around you, I never want to not be invited to the things that that person is doing because it's so magical and special and takes me out of my real life and into this really lovely experience. And I know that we have lots of opportunities every year to be good at hosting, and I would love to see us all be better at it. Be a great host. I know you have it in you. I know that it can be awkward and uncomfortable, and just do your best. Pray that it's blessed and let God take care of the rest. Those of you who aren't, who don't believe in a God, you're like, And then those of you who are, you're like, but that was Keith Green, folks. He wrote a good book, and I read that one too. That's good advice. I think it was in his song. So don't freak out. You can host for sure. And if you're not great at hosting, maybe bring your outgoing friend to team up with you, and then you guys host together, and it's gonna be awesome. And you're gonna give it your own personal flair, and I can't wait to be invited to your party. I love a good party. I really do. Okay, goodbye. You're doing great.